I had to make a decision between student leadership and my work. The decision wasn't that hard. I decided to quit my job, even though my family, my friends were like, hey, are you sure you're gonna, like, how are you gonna be able to make ends meet? I let them know, like, I'm not even making ends meet now. This is a retail job. This is something that I'm passionate about. I'm making moves. I'm, learning more. I'm utilizing what I'm learning. So I had to take a chance on myself and decided to continue to be involved in student leadership, and it paid off. I had some really great experiences, met some really great people, utilized campus resources, such as the campus radio station to promote different clubs, events, different community opportunities. I partnered with community organizations to create a toy drive on our campus to partner with their toy drive that they had. We went out into the community and did child development conferences as a child development club, as a student, as associate, as a student organizer, and as a student senator. Maybe I should say that, as a student senator in leadership, I was able to travel to Sacramento with our ASO to be, empowered by other associated student organization leadership and see the things that they were doing on their campus. And it was just a really great experience. And I do not, to this day, I don't regret making that decision to stop working as much to focus on my student leadership. Spring 2016, I was still a student leader. However, there were some personal things that happened in my home and the family that took me in where I could no longer live there. So I found myself living in my car. Spring 2016, I had the opportunity to go to the CCCP Winter Saturday Academy Financial Literacy Workshop. I was not a member of CCCP, but because I was a mentor, I always suggested these events to my mentees, and I would go along to gather information and bring it back to my campus. And this financial literacy workshop was just so amazing, mind-blowing. It really highlighted a lot of things that I needed to do for my financial planning around financial aid, loans, scholarships. It was very empowering. And I got to meet and network with students at UCLA. During the spring semester, I was working as a one-on-one educational aide. And like I said, I still did my student leadership. I learned to apply for scholarships like it was a part-time job. Basically, apply for 10, you may get 1 or 2. So it's just a numbers game, but also being intentional with the scholarships that you're applying to and how you're investing your time. I had to make a decision about the school that I was going to transfer to because it was coming close to the time that I would be graduating. I followed up with counselors and mentors. And again, I was living in my car. I was just so busy that I couldn't focus on the adversity that I was facing. I just invested my time into applying for scholarships, doing what I had to do to excel at school. And I made it through. I made it through. I worked so hard. I was awarded so many different scholarships. Here's a picture of the family that I lived with. I still love them. We still would talk. I just knew it was time for me to make better decisions for myself. And I'm so thankful. There's so many people who are not pictured here who just fed life into me. I had so much support from my professors, from the community, and to go from living in my car to being the student commencement speaker and winning all these awards and scholarships. I felt like I was on top of the world for spring 2016. The final thing that I had to do was to decide on which college I wanted to transfer to. And my personal transfer decision process came down to 3 schools that I was accepted to. It was between CSUN, Humboldt, and Cal State University Dominguez Hills. The the main things that went into my decision making was the community, what the community was like on campus, off campus, the location where it was located, the population size, the housing status, what my housing status would be, because I was still living in my car at the time, what the financial aid package looked like. And I was also fighting decisions between fight or flight. I'm not sure if you've heard of Humboldt, but Humboldt is about 13 hours up north. Dominguez Hills is close, it's in Carson, right next to Compton, which is where I grew up. So either I wanted to fight and stay involved and fight to like redeem myself, or I wanted to flight and go somewhere where nobody knew me, where I didn't know anyone. And then for CSUN, it was my redemption. You know, I was kicked out of CSUN a couple of years ago. And here they accepted me back. However, with CSUN, because my academic standing, I would not get financial aid. So that cut CSUN out the game. When it came down to Humboldt versus Dominguez Hills, I had my cousin who suggested that that I come stay with her in Long Beach, which was really close to my school. And she would, you know, rent a room out to me. And I thought, you know what? Okay, let me try and build a relationship with my family. Let me try and make this work. So I decided to go with Cal State University, Dominguez Hills. The summer of 2016, here I am, you know, graduated, top of my class. I, you know, redeemed myself. However, I ended up being kicked out of my relative's home within a month of moving in there. I tried to go apply for the dorms, but I had just missed the cutoff date and there were no more dorms available. So I decided, well, my last resort was to move back with my family in Compton, California. But it was a very toxic environment. And shortly after I moved in, there was a family tragedy. My stepfather was murdered, and there was just so much going on emotionally. I felt like it was toxic and I was going to a dark place. So I decided, you know what, I have to live in my car, because I'd rather live in my car and be safe physically, mentally, emotionally, than to be living somewhere where I do not feel safe mentally, physically, and emotionally. I applied for different public assistance programs, but because I was a student and not working, I didn't qualify. I tried to apply for housing, but I was not working at the time. So again, I didn't qualify for different housing. And it was a difficult time for me to go from experience that high of a high to this low of a low. And so for the fall of 2016, I focused on housing until my grades started to falter. So I started working on campus and was thinking that I could get my own apartment, because there were still no more dorms available, but my grades began to falter. So I had to make the decision, you know, I have to focus only on school. Everything else I just have to have faith that everything else will work out, because I can't focus on so many things because it's stressing me out. Thankfully, I got a surprise phone call from my brother, who suggested that I move with my sister in an available apartment. Initially, I was hesitant, but after you live in your car for 6 months out of the year, your options are limited. So I decided to take them up on that offer. And it worked out that I was able to have housing, even though it was about a 2.5 hour train ride away from my school. It still was a safe place for me to stay. And I think it was 2 days after the semester ended, I got a phone call from my childhood family friend, who actually remembered that I was in foster care. And she said, you know what, we're having this winter retreat and you were in foster care, so I would love for you to come. I was feeling overwhelmed just with the crazy year that I had had. But she persuaded me to go, and I'm forever thankful for her for inviting me to the National Foster Youth Institute's inaugural Winter Leadership Retreat, because this was a retreat where about 50 youth from across the nation came to meet to talk about how to transform the child welfare system. And they were talking about different things that they were doing locally to impact change and make a difference. And I was so proud of them. I looked up to them, even though I want to say I was older than most of the people who are part of the Leadership Academy. Their tenacity, their resiliency, despite a lot of the things they were going through, motivated me to do better, to be better, to get more involved. I was like, you know what? I'm basically sitting on my butt. They lit a fire under me to like remember that I was in foster care, remember that, you know, I was resilient and going through things, but there's so many people who's who don't get the opportunities that I got to redeem myself. And I was no longer ashamed that I was in foster care. I was proud that I was in foster care and that I was resilient to make it through, because here I was surrounded by all these people and Congresswoman Karen Bass, who, you know, despite what they went through or were going through still, were advocating in their communities, advocating throughout their states, throughout the nation for change. And so I decided to take that back to my campus at Dominguez Hills and figure out how I could get involved. I this is not me, by the way. I just love this picture, this little meme of this little girl, me searching for liberty and justice for all, because I think that's the best way to explain my 2016, my spring 2017 year. I was involved in community advocacy, community activism, and networking. I spoke up. I shared my story about being homeless. I shared my story about being a foster youth. I shared my story about my adversity to anyone who would listen. I was not ashamed. And I think that, you know, me finding the courage to speak up was just super important, because there's so many people who are not speaking up but are going through these things. And the National Foster Youth Institute, we were doing a survey where we were surveying foster youth to figure out where they wanted us to focus, or where they wanted the organization to focus when the organization went to Washington, D.C. to talk to Congress members. And that was like me doing research, me talking to foster youth, getting their stories. I participated in the CSU Basic Needs Initiative, which highlighted students being food insecure and housing insecure, and the impact that they have on their on the higher education journey that they're on. I got involved in the community with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, you know, a movement that's near and dear to my heart. And I also got involved in politics, supported a re-election campaign. I was just on fire. I was coming in hot spring 2017. Also still able to focus and excel academically. These were all things that I was doing in my free time, but school remained my number one focus. In my summer 2017, I got to travel. I traveled with the National Foster Youth Institute to Washington, D.C., to advocate with over 100 foster youth, to meet with their congressional representatives to share their story. I did work with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles to advocate in our community for change, for the end of police brutality. And I was able to become part of the Children's Defense Fund Read Lead Freedom Schools for the summer. So I had the opportunity to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Was it Nashville or Knoxville? Knoxville, Tennessee, for a training at Tennessee State University, which was amazing and life-changing. All that happened in summer 2017. And then 1 year after my stepfather died, we were celebrating his life. And unfortunately, I was the victim of gun violence. I was shot. My stepbrother was shot, and we had a family friend who was shot and did not survive the shooting, while we were celebrating my stepfather's life at an event in Compton. So again, I had the highest of the highs experience where I was just really finding and discovering myself. And then all of a sudden I found myself, you know, fighting for my life. But thankfully, as you see, I'm here today. I survived, and I was able to bounce back, not on my own accord, but because of my community. The National Foster Youth Institute, Black Lives Matter, my professors at Dominguez Hills, the Toro Guardian Scholars at Dominguez Hills, community, my friends, my family really rallied around me to support me. And I knew that I had to push through to finish. I did not get this far to just make it this far. My goal was to finish and get my degree no matter what. So I 2 weeks after being shot, I started my fall semester and pushed through. Thankfully, I was able to do what I had to do and still graduate one time. This is my Toro Guardian Scholars family. They accepted me in, no questions asked, and really supported me even when I was resistant, even when I didn't think that I would qualify because I was too old. They really rallied around me and showed me unconditional love and support, and I'm forever thankful for them and everyone else who supported me. This is me and my graduation. I graduated, whoop whoop, got awards, all that good stuff. And I went back to DC to go to the 2018 Shadow Day. I became a mentor, a pod leader, and supported youth who were on Shadow Day. For 2018, after graduation, I was lucky enough to I completed a fellowship at Los Angeles City Hall in the office of Nori Martinez, thanks to attending an event at Cal State University Dominguez Hills around electing women into politics. It was called Elect Her, and I was able to find out about this possible fellowship that I applied to and got hired with. Through connections, I then finished my fellowship at City Hall and was able to go to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority and complete a policy fellowship there, because my goal was to figure out why students or why people like me were experiencing homelessness and why there were no programs that were near our college campus, that were connected to our college campuses, that supported students who were experiencing homelessness. And so I wanted to get to the bottom of things. And so I did these 2 fellowships, and that was pretty amazing. To focus on policy, I was able to help craft policy around Black people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. I provided recommendations for the child welfare system and all those good things. But I still was like, okay, we can make these beautiful policies. What's the disparity, or what's the difference between creating policy and implementing policy? So that was my question, and that led me to the work that I'm doing today. Today, I work as a live-in resident coordinator for youth in a transitional housing program for youth who are experiencing homelessness. And there's a lot of intersection between the foster care system and homelessness, the criminal justice system, the juvenile justice system, and homelessness. And so I'm able to take the policy background and implement it into the day-to-day, and also see, where some of the disparities lie, but also where some of the breaks in policy recommendation and actually, and actually doing the work. So we're a program that's based on trauma-informed care, harm reduction, low barriers, housing first, all these beautiful philosophies that come together to support the individual and is individually centered. And so I really am using that, to better understand these systems. And in the future, I would love to get my master's of social work degree. In the meantime, I'm continuing to advocate. I'm continuing to show up and do the work. I had the opportunity to be a part of the Los Angeles County Office of Education's Foster Youth Voice Rep. So figuring out how we can better our education systems to support foster youth. One thing that I am now in the understanding of is the importance of self-care, because, we only get one life to live. And for me personally, I had to understand that I was in survival mode. I'm not in survival mode anymore, thankfully. But when you're in survival mode, when you're going to school, when you're working multiple jobs, when you're doing all these things, you're surviving so that you can create a better future for yourself. Just in the meantime, when you're surviving, remember to take care of yourself. Remember to love yourself, to take the time to feed into yourself, whether that's something physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, personally, financially, spatially. All these things work together for your benefit. And so I just could not do this keynote without talking about the importance of self-care and personal wellness while you're navigating higher education and even after. I am 31 years old. Yeah, I'm 31 years old now, and I'm just starting to understand that I haven't been taking care of myself because I've always been in survival mode. And now I'm not in survival mode. Now, thankfully, I have stability. And I think it's time for me to, highlight self care, highlight wellness, and all those good things. So just remembering to take a break for yourself, to take care of yourself. These are things that you can Google 50 ways to take a break. I Googled them, print them out, post them in your room, post them on your wall at work, post them anywhere so that you remember to take care of yourself, even if it's something as simple as taking a deep breath. If you're a Los Angeles County resident, you do get the Headspace app for free. That is the free Headspace app. So utilize that. So to close out, from resilient to empowered, I believe foster youth, we're more than our resilience. And I think a lot of conversation is around our resilience. But what people don't understand is in that resilience, there's so much pain, there's so much trauma, and we are so much more than resilient. We need to be empowered to speak up, empowered to make a difference in our own lives, in our community, and not just depending on our resilience. Because I think resilience is important, but only focusing on that is just like, okay, we're constantly going through trauma, we're constantly going through things. And I think to go from a resilient lens to an empowered lens is just powerful, not to be cheesy, but it really is. Embrace your community or create your community, whatever that looks like. Community is wherever you are, create it, get involved, network that's on campus or in the community. There's so many great organizations that are doing the work. If you're local in Los Angeles, there's the National Foster Youth Institute, there's Journey House, there's California Youth Connection that's all throughout the state of California. And there's so many more. We can connect later if you would like to learn more, but I'm sure during these workshops, you'll be connected to resources and opportunity, but definitely stay involved with CCCP. They are the business and they know what it takes to get you all to the next level. And they're doing powerful work to see us and embrace us. Definitely utilize college resources to test out the theories that you have in your mind. Definitely remember when you're making your transfer decision to visit the campus if possible, connect with programs, especially Guardian Scholars programs. Think about your financial planning for your current state and your future. And remember, your transfer decision should be based on what's best for you and the best fit for you. And my theory is that as former foster youth, we never stop searching for and needing affirming environments where we are welcome, trusted, and cared for. Follow your instincts, intentionally seek out community, and build upon the foundation where you plant yourselves in higher education by exploring and utilizing what you learn to empower yourself in your community. Thank y'all for inviting me to the cookout.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tanisha. Does anybody have any questions for Tanisha? This is the time. If you have any questions, you could share it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
I just want to say, Tanisha, I'm sorry, that was so inspiring. And Tanisha, I could have sworn you were a scholar. I could have sworn you were a scholar. You just, I don't know, you just carry yourself like a scholar all the time. So I was like, you're a scholar. And that's so awesome. I'm so glad to hear your story. That was so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. I consider myself UCLA adjacent. Let me just say that.
You're UCLA, and all the magic that you bring is just wow, amazing story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yes, thank you, Tanisha. We greatly appreciate you being our keynote speaker. Very inspiring. Resiliency, perseverance. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? We do have a lot of thank yous in the chat. So let me go over the chat.
I
Yes.
think Natasha had a question, I think.
Natasha?
Yes, I have a question. Say if you're a foster youth and aged out, and you're trying to see what else benefits that you could receive, because I have everything set up besides foster youth, because I was a foster kid at a certain age, but I aged out. Do I still qualify for any programs?
I would definitely suggest you connecting with your guardian scholars on your campus. They helped me when I was an adult, and when I thought I had aged out, I sat down with my peer mentor from Guardian Scholars. She was able to look things up with me and connect with my county to get my proof that I was in foster care. So I would also refer that question to any triple CP staff who can answer that. My recommendation is to go to your campus and connect with your Guardian Scholars program, or connect with your local county child welfare system to see, because there's been a lot of work done actually, because older youth have advocated, such as myself, so they've expanded a lot of opportunities. I'm not sure what your age is, but there's a lot of opportunities.
I am 27, but I aged out on 26. When I was 26, they gave me a gap because I have my high school diploma. I have everything set up for me, but when I tried to contact with LA Trade Tech, they told me to contact foster youth to get into their program. It's like a lot of rip and running with them, where it's like, okay, what's my next step?
Yeah, there's a lot of groundwork that has to be done. It pays off. That's why I'm suggesting Guardian Scholars as well. If there is a triple CP staff that can connect with you as well, to work with you. I left my email here if you would like to connect on a personal level too. I just don't want to speak outside of my my expertise.
Yes.
Okay.
Natasha, you can contact me. I am the program coordinator for LA Trade Tech, and so I can connect you with folks.
Because right now I am actually doing like culinary arts for LA Trade Tech, because I already have my classes, but they told me to connect with foster youth because I was a foster youth at a certain age, but I didn't know what age they will age out. I didn't know that, but until I went to a non-public school to get my high school diploma, and I graduated in 2007. So I have that already. I have every information, but I already filled out the FAST app. They told me to contact with foster youth because since I was a foster youth.
Okay, I'll connect with you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? If not, if we can give a big shout out to Tanisha, we can do some claps, do some emoji claps, give her big ups, big ups. Thank you very much, Tanisha.
I see someone, Alberto, had a raised hand. I'm not sure if that's for me or for you all.
Yes. Hi, Tanisha. My name is Alberto Moreno. I'm one of the staff members with Triple CP. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you again for sharing space with us. I've been inspired and empowered by you, just listening to your story. And I just want to thank you also for all of your advocacy and everything that you're doing, not only for yourself, but for others. And, just continue tearing down those gatekeepers and continue building bridges for generations to come. Thank you so much, and I commend you for all of your success.
Thank you. I feel the love. I'm gonna be around Triple CP. I'm gonna be around. I'm gonna keep hitting y'all up. I appreciate the work that y'all are doing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing, and just oh my God, you're like someone was saying you're staff already, so you just come and hang out with us now.
For real.
Honorary staff member.
Yeah.
Well, thank you once again, Tanisha. I know our we're running along on time, but we do have our next presenter here. Pablo, if you want to introduce her.
Hello, everyone. And once again, thank you, Tanisha. I echo what everyone said. Please come work for us. Now moving on to our next section. It's my honor to introduce the next student speaker. When I first came to UCLA, I never thought about conducting research. It was pretty scary, but thanks to the CCCP, I learned more about it. So that's why I'm really happy about this workshop. And so I participated in EFT, and I met Jerica Thomas, and she is so amazing, and she radiates so much love and strength. And when she presented her research when we were practicing, it just like inspired me to level up. I was like, okay, I need to step up my game because Jerica's is so good. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic on to Jerica.
Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for inviting me to present my research. I'm really excited to do this. Is it okay to share my screen?
Yes, please go for it.
There you go. Sorry. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Present. There you go. Alrighty, so as Pablo already mentioned, I am Jerica Thomas, and I was a part of the Educators for Tomorrow Fellowship with her amazing program, 10 out of 10. And I also presented at the Undergraduate Research Week here at UCLA. And I'm very excited to share my research. My research is entitled Reach Out and Protect Us, How Community Engagement Can Create Lasting Change for Foster Youth. And it's going to be looking into the effects of community engagement on foster youth academic achievement. So just a little bit about me. I'm a former foster youth who is currently part of many foster youth organizations here in LA. My siblings and I, which are to the right, are all former foster youth, and this has had a major impact on my research. I'm sorry, that's my dog. I've lived through these experiences and want to create lasting change for foster youth students through my own education work. And I am doing this research to uncover ways to better support foster youth and their needs. So now that you've learned a little bit more about me and why I'm doing this research, we can move into more of a historical context surrounding foster youth's lives and their academic achievement. So foster youth educational achievement has been an often overlooked issue within the greater education field. Foster youth are considered to be a small portion of the population, and for this reason, it is deemed unnecessary to look further into what the education system is failing in terms of supporting their educational achievement. According to Foster Youth Success, a foster youth advocacy organization, the overall graduation rate of foster youth fell from 64.6% in 2019 to only 55.3% in 2020, which is dismal in comparison to the overall graduation rate of their peers at 87.3% in 2020. Foster youth also face disciplinary action at school at a much higher rate than their peers. Almost a quarter of foster youth are suspended each year, while a third of African American foster youth are suspended, and they are expelled at nearly 2.5 times the rate of their peers, which is simply unacceptable. So as you can see in this figure, of the 16 states that track foster youth graduation rates, these foster youth are graduating at disturbingly low rates compared to their peers. Foster youth are being failed by an education system that's meant to support them, and I think it is extremely important as educators and as researchers like myself that we take the steps to slow these trends. So foster youth educational achievement, again, has been extremely overlooked. Within 4 years of aging out, 50% of foster youth have no earnings, and those who do make an average of only $7,500, which is, as I'm sure you guys know, you can't survive off that. And by the age of 26, only 4% of foster youth have obtained a bachelor's degree, which is very extremely low numbers, and little has been being done about that, which is why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. So, having known these statistics, I wanted to look further into the reasoning behind why this may be happening to foster youth, and I began to engage with literature from previous scholars, which is called a literature review. So we're now going to look, sorry, that again is my dog. I'll now take a deeper dive into my literature review and how I applied it towards my theoretical framework of my research, so the building of my research. So, research by Myung Yoon, Ann E. Bender, and Ji-Hoo Park looked at the negative effects of different foster home placements characteristics on foster youth offending behavior. So when they quote unquote act up, finding that maltreated youth, regardless of receiving in-home or out-of-home placement, out-of-home care services are at greater risk of offending behaviors compared to non-maltreated youth. The research found that a child's first placement at a later age is associated with higher levels of later offending behavior, and that children who had a higher number of placements demonstrated higher levels of offending behavior as compared to those who were only placed in foster care. Children who are placed in foster care at a later age are ripped away from everything that they knew, everything that they lived, and everyone that they knew. Their whole world has changed in an instant, and it only feels right to lash out and blame the world. That it's just a human reaction. It's normal. Similarly, children who have a higher number of placements also demonstrate higher levels of offending behavior compared to those who have only been placed in foster care. They feel betrayed by a world who has constantly moved them from home to home with little more than a garbage bag to take all their belongings and everything important to them. They have every right to feel the way that they feel, and of course, they're going to lash out at that. These children are faced with previous and current maltreatment in and out of their homes and are expected to blame these destructive feelings and balance them by themselves, something that even us as an average adult could never even imagine doing. So, foster youth can face abuse from all different sides, and it's often not noticed by those within their spaces and communities, especially within the schools, not allowing them to grow and feel connected with the educational system because they're not getting the support and respect and space that they need. So a report by Loomis, Feely, and Kennedy named Measuring Self-Reported Polyvictimization in Foster Youth found that there's little known about the perpetrators of victimization for foster youth. There's been so little research about it, finding that measurements such as community violence, emotional abuse, and dating violence were overlooked in many studies, leaving a lack of understanding as to the effects of these very important different types of trauma on foster youth in their changing developmental stages. This leaves so much room for mistreatment in classrooms and other spaces due to a lack of understanding surrounding the trauma experienced by foster youth and the steps that should be taken to mitigate this trauma. So, with all of this in mind, I developed my research question, wondering how community engagement, so volunteering with your community, giving back, activism, all of these different things that you do within your community, how that could affect a foster youth's academic achievement, something which I've observed in the previous benefits for other students through both my own experience, my own life experience, and my siblings, and my research could be applied to the foster youth community. My research asks, what are the effects of community engagement on foster youth academic achievement, and how can we apply any positive findings towards helping these students? So my research follows a community engagement framework, which defines community engagement as the process of working collaboratively with and through groups of people affiliated by geographic proximity, special interest, or similar situations to address issues affecting the well-being of these people. So working collaboratively with people and engaging really closely with them is what community engagement is about. So a quote that I thought was really interesting pertaining to what exactly community engagement is service, or more specifically, a full and active engagement with the people, problems, and promises of the community where you live is what civic engagement and community engagement experiences prepare people for. Community engagement is extremely important, and I think it has a major impact on all of our lives as students, and it can have a really positive impact on foster youth who typically aren't allowed these opportunities that are given to their more fortunate peers. So a community engagement framework requires that the researchers, so I and others who choose to study in this manner, appreciate and listen to the community as it is and not come in with biases and ideas about, oh, this should be this way, and I have a better understanding, and I've done all this research, yada, yada, yada. It's coming in with the understanding that the community knows better than I do what they need, and that it is my responsibility as a researcher to fully engage and listen to them and understand what they want to tell me and not push anywhere past that. So in order to do this, I maintained a positive and open mindset concerning the problems and needs of the foster youth community that I come from, and I listened solely to the voices of foster youth who have been in the system and who can actually give me information about what they've experienced and what they feel, rather than listening to others outside of the community. In my research, I sought to make foster youth and their voices the center and emphasize the importance of appreciating what is already within the community. Because in a lot of foster youth research that I've looked at, there tends to be a centering of psychologists, social workers, teachers, people who are outside of the community, rather than people who are within the community and can provide a firsthand experience of what we should be doing. So after I built this giant theoretical framework, which is a lot of work, developing your literature review and all this is a lot of work, but it really gives you this background of how much to build your methods and findings. I developed my methods and findings. And so I'm just going to go into a little bit about what exactly I did for these. So my research took place in LA just for convenience. I live in LA and my school is in LA and most of my foster youth organizations are in LA. So I made sure to really engage with my foster youth organizations in LA because LA has one of the biggest populations of foster youth in California, with 30,000 foster youth compared to the state total of 60,000 foster youth. So there's so many foster youth from all different types of backgrounds and communities that I could engage with. So I did this thing called a convenient sampling, which means I reached out to various foster youth organizations connected with the UCLA student population, such as Bruin Guardian Scholars, Together We Rise, Ready to Succeed LA, and UCLA Pritzker Center, which are all foster youth organizations that support foster youth from K through 12 in collegiate education. And all the students that I chose were in their undergraduate year in college, in different colleges throughout the country and throughout the state, from UCLA, from University of Alabama, from University of Arizona, from all different races and genders and ages, all of them from different backgrounds, so that I could obtain different and very important perspectives about how the foster youth could have affected them. So in order to do this, I sent out various surveys to their foster youth organizations through emails, through GroupMe messages, through Instagram posts, through all different types of social media, because unfortunately we are in the digital platform right now, so I couldn't go in person to interact with everyone. But I sent out a survey through all these different platforms to current and former foster youth, through which I looked at the initial responses and I said, okay, the students are giving me these ideas about what they think their foster youth experience was. And I looked at who gave the most in-depth responses and who provided me with the most rich information. And from those, I chose 4 students to give a 1-hour-long interview, and they were really great. They provided so much information. The questions, they were given on Zoom, Skype, and FaceTime, depending on which individual was most comfortable with. And the sessions were recorded depending on the manner which they were most comfortable with, because again, we are online and it's very difficult. It's very nerve-wracking to have to talk to someone you've just met and spill a lot of what is very personal information. So I chose whatever they felt most comfortable with. And if they didn't want a camera on, didn't need their camera on. If they didn't even want to do it on Zoom, we did it through a text conversation where they felt most comfortable with. It was wherever they felt most comfortable with. And I just wanted to provide space to give recommendations for future action and what they thought foster youth organizations could improve upon. And also community engagement can improve on, not only for foster youth, but for other marginalized communities. And in order to provide the most comfort, I also began by sharing my personal story of my experience in foster care and community engagement, providing room for connection and shared experience between myself and my participants. As a former foster youth, I come in with my own preconceived notions surrounding foster care and how I believe it has affected foster youth. I am a former foster youth who's an Afro-Latina, so I have many different identities that change and mix together in order to create my perceptions of how I think foster youth should be changed. So it's important that I took a step back and acknowledge my own ideas of what I'm coming in with, and tell my participants what I'm coming in with, so that they can also relate to me on a better level and also feel more comfortable with sharing these things with me. Because I'm sure, as you guys all know, it's a lot more comfortable speaking about your experiences when you know someone has gone through those same experiences as you and can relate to what you have gone through. So I have found a lot of really interesting and important information through both the surveys and interviews, and I would just want to share some of the most striking information. So to begin, according to the survey findings, Over 90% of students believe that community engagement had a positive effect on their mental, emotional, and social well-being. This isn't really any different from what I found from my literature reviews. Most of the studies found that, yes, of course, community engagement volunteering has a positive effect on your well-being. That is a finding that I pretty much expected to find. And with that, I also found that over 50% of students believe that community engagement had a positive effect on their academic well-being, while 40% were neutral on the topic. This is a finding that was pretty much going along with the line of research that I found. They all spout the idea that community engagement is really positive for both your emotional, social well-being and your academic well-being. So where I found really important was these quotes. And so the survey results were especially interesting and gave a lot of direction to the interviews, which presented a lot more information for me to compare with these findings. I am centering student voices in my research, and for this reason, I will be highlighting a few of the most memorable quotes for my research. These quotes were expressed to me during the interviews and really stood out to me for their implications for community engagement. One student stated, "You had to be one of the good ones for them to care about you, but they didn't care about everyone as a whole." When asked to discuss his experience in working in his community and the benefits that he saw from it. Another student said, "Don't expect foster youth to use their trauma as a forefront of their activism. We are not sob stories to be put up for sale," when asked to discuss how she thought community organizers could further support students. There was an overall acknowledgement and sense of being taken advantage of by systems out of their control, whether that be having to be the star student in order to receive help, or having to be a sob story that's brought to the forefront to gain popularity for an organization. This information was especially meaningful because all the students interviewed will be considered extremely high achieving students who have done a lot of work through their community. They are students who have been uplifted in community engagement research as success stories. Students emphasized that they both knew this was happening to them by certain organizations and hated being used in such a manner for what it did to them. These next two quotes stood out to me very highly because they not only went against the typical beliefs surrounding community engagement, but they also went against students' responses about community engagement and mental health from the survey. One student stated, "You just have to accept that you will be happy, you will gain happiness out of the work that you do. However, you can't exactly invest in yourself because you have so much to do for everyone else," when asked to discuss what he saw as the effects of community engagement on his mental health. Another student responded to this question with the statement, "To a large extent, community work can make me feel exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed because you cannot simply leave work at work. You carry it almost everywhere, and you especially carry the guilt of not getting something done, being better at your position." Were these findings what I wanted to necessarily find? No, I was definitely optimistic about finding connections to the positive benefits of community engagement. However, I think these findings speak to the importance of responsible community engagement by those in leadership positions and protecting those who need our assistance, especially those who come from marginalized communities. Those outside of these communities so often push us to serve our identities and communities, making us feel that it is our obligation and duty to be the one voice for the people, to work 10 times harder than everyone else, and make us feel that we have to be the hero for every single part of our identity and show that we are somehow worthy to occupy these spaces. When we, in fact, don't have to do any of this. We are worthy to occupy any space that we are in and don't have to prove anything to anyone. Speaking with these students really emphasized to me that we have to build better boundaries for our students and allow them to feel supported rather than asking them to support everything and everyone around them and expecting them to constantly be working and working and working, while their more privileged peers are allowed to solely study, relax, and party. Before we continue on to discuss my limitations and recommendations for further work that I gave in my research, I think it's important for us to take a moment and reflect on these students' responses. Community engagement work is meant to help and uplift communities and people. However, it becomes extremely dangerous and toxic once it is forced upon those who are from that community and used to make them feel less than and overwhelmed. We have to work hard as educators, leaders, and future mentors to protect these students and provide them with support and help that they deserve from their community, rather than solely asking them to protect and serve their community. It's our role as future advocates and leaders to be doing that work, and as former foster youth ourselves, to be advocating for this work to be done. I hope you all keep this in mind as we close out my presentation. So, moving into a discussion on limitations and recommendations from students, I want to begin by providing a few limitations for myself. So, one of the most important ones is I am a former foster youth, which gives me a lot of bias. I believe that coming from this community provides me with connections and backgrounds that someone from outside this community could never have. I've been able to connect with so many foster youth solely because I was a foster youth. I know my community and have been able to learn from my peers more than I believe someone outside my community can learn. Another limitation that I faced was it was all online. As you guys all know, it is very hard just even existing and doing your schoolwork online, much less doing interviews and having to share extremely personal information online. However, I believe it provided more space for students who are typically too shy or nervous to speak on these topics in person. There is almost a shield when you're speaking online where you feel more comfortable, especially when you know someone is being genuine and wants to learn about your perspective. It can give you more confidence and want to speak more. And another issue that I had was I couldn't reach out to different former foster youth who have unique experiences, such as not attending college or high school. However, I believe this leaves a lot of room for future research to be done by myself or others about this topic and expand on these ideas. So I want to leave you with the most important part of this research, the voices and thoughts of my peers. One of the most powerful quotes that provided a great summary of the recommendations left by students is this: don't just expect us to give 1000% to everything that we do. Protect us and reach out to us and show us that you are deserving of our help. Overall, students recommended that community organizations and others provide support for foster youth and help them rather than expect them to solely work and give back. It is all of our responsibilities to serve, and the task should not solely fall on those who are part of these communities, but instead should be a shared burden by all those within our spaces. So thank you so much for allowing me to present my research. I included my email and my IG. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, even if it's not just about my research in particular, but like getting into research, because I know for a lot of us, research is something that seems unattainable, and I would love to help you in any way that I can. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerica. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Jerica? This would be the time.
I just wanted to say thank you again so much. I forgot how powerful your research was. Like every time I hear it, thank you so much. And I do have some few questions for you. I have two. So, what made you want to participate in EFT, and why or how did you choose your topic?
So for the EFT side, I want to be a teacher, and because it was a research program focused on education, I thought that would be powerful and help me. And also, I've never done research before, and Larry, our faculty member, was so nice and so helpful and so great in supporting us. He really made me want to apply when I did interview with him and when I did meet him beforehand and when I did have email exchanges. And also the community, everyone in EFT is so sweet and so kind and so caring. We still have group chats and everyone there is so amazing. So it was such a great space that I was like, I have to be a part of this. I have to join this. And then for my why I wanted to conduct this research, so everything that I do pretty much is centered around foster youth and also children. And I want to be a teacher who works primarily in like low income people of color neighborhoods, and also working with foster youth. I want to create foster youth programs when I'm older in my school districts. So this was the perfect way to balance my two different interests. And I also had my Professor Jason Dorio. He works in community engagement work, and he really inspired me to wonder how can I bring in a community engagement perspective of giving back to the community and also intertwining that with my foster youth work and also my education. So it was a lot of help from him and also Larry in making this a really great question and a really great topic. Hopefully that answers the question.
Hi, Jerica, Jackie here. So I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite part about your research experience?
I really enjoyed being able to talk with so many diverse students that I didn't have a chance to talk to. So I was able to talk with a bunch of different students for my fellowships. And normally I wouldn't be able to talk to them about their experiences and and compare it to my own. So that was really amazing to me to be able to talk to students from across the country and from across UCLA who have so many diverse experiences from my own and who could just validate how I felt and give me a new perspective that scholarly articles wouldn't give you, because they tend to have this like lofty, of course community engagement is good, of course it's going to help, rather than that personal level of, oh yes, it can be good, but also keep in mind it can hurt. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? You can share it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. If not, thank you very much for presenting at our webinar. Please, everyone, give a hand, give it up for Jerica.
Thank you so much, Jerica. This was awesome.
Hey, there goes.
Someone making all the noise. I'm sorry.
Awesome. So we are gonna move right along. I know we're a little bit over time, but the next thing on the agenda is actually our affirmation.
I'll read that. I am the architect of my life. I build its foundation and choose its contents.
Thank you. So now it's raffle time. We've come to that point. We're gonna raffle maybe two gift cards. So these are for our student participants. And so I'm gonna share my screen right now, and I put everyone's names in the wheel of names, and so it's gonna be randomly chosen. The first gift card, it's a Visa gift card, and so it's a $25 one. So if I can share screen really quick. Now, in order to receive the gift card, you actually have to be here. So some folks' names might be here, but they might have left the webinar. So if their name is chosen, we will spin again. Is everybody ready? And our first winner is Guy Bar. Guy Bar, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You are our first winner.
Yay.
Awesome. And so I'm going to remove your name. So next, it's a $50 gift card, Visa gift card. And here we go again. Tara Sunner, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. You get the $50 gift card. It's a Visa gift card. You could use it on anything. So this is our raffle. We will have another raffle towards the end. We will also have a raffle during our break if you're going to be joining the talent show. So those are only for the folks who join the talent show. But then we will raffle off 2 gift cards towards the end. So folks who if you already won this time around, your name's not going to be on the next one. But if you enter the talent show, you could potentially get another gift card. And so the next those gift cards is a $25 gift card to Starbucks, and I believe it's a Cheese Factory gift card, if I'm not mistaken. and we might have another
Cheese or
gift card.
cheesecake?
Huh?
Cheese or cheesecake?
Cheesecake Factory? I don't know. You have to talk to
Yeah,
Beth about that one.
cheesecake. $50 Cheesecake Factory
Oh,
gift card.
$50 Cheesecake Factory, but you
50,
have to
50.
be here in order to win it. So we are, in order to win it, you have to be here. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
And it's lunchtime.
And it is lunchtime. We've come to that time. I know we've gone over a little bit, but now is the time to take our break. Stretch, do whatever you have to do. Go get something to eat. I know our break says from 12:15 to 12:45. We will be back because we do have a student panel that's going to start at 12:55, if I'm not mistaken. I think 12:55. So if we could be back around that time, because we haven't asked our student panel to extend their time, and so it's kind of hard to do. So we want to start on time for those, the panel, and for our wellness presentation. But if you want to join the talent show, please let me know if you want to join. So it's an open mic. You can read a poetry. You could sing a song. If you're an artist and you want to share your paintings, you could share your screen, share sketches. If you're a designer, share sketches again. If you're a jewelry maker and you want to show your jewelry, you can do that too. But if not, if you don't want to do the open mic talent show, we will play music. And so,
could you stop the live stream?
Oh yeah. So, Jackie, if you can please stop the live stream before we play music.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is open to every student, peer advisor, staff. I know Santi wants to sing.